Dudes, we made it. We're live. Finally. We encountered some technical difficulties, inmates. Bear with us. But we are sorted out now, for Christ's sakes. Look, well, yeah. Look, you probably noticed. Oh, Jesus, we got to adjust this shit. You probably noticed that there was a live video about 10 minutes ago. Ignore that. It had nothing to do with anything. It was us trying to figure our shit out. Weird settings got fucked with in my computer and all hell broke loose. You know how it goes. We're going to be going live on the Psycho Bunny Death Cult momentarily. Monica is not with us tonight. I apologize for that. I know you guys enjoy her and her movies. Hey, look at that. Have you guys seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre? I know you have. Don't lie to me. What'd you think? Be honest. It can be problematic to the modern viewer, but watch it. I mean, I don't know, man. It's one of it's one of those movies that is you remember being really good, but then you watch it now and you're like, yeah, you know, I'm sorry, but he's right. But we're gonna get into that in a second. I'm feeling better, by the way. I hope you realize that. I hope you care. 2 thumbs up, better than the slicker remakes, Jim says. You know, Jim, I don't know that I agree with you on that. The box office numbers will back you up. And up until the Blair Witch Project, that was actually the highest grossing independent film ever made, was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wow.
The only reason the Blair Witch surpassed it was because it was shot so cheap. Much cheaper. They spent far less on the Blair Witch Project. All right, here we go. Psycho Bunny Death Cult. Just hold on. We're getting our act together right now. I'm not saying that I'm mad at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Although, well, all right, hold on. I should probably quit running my mouth and try to focus on getting this goddamn shit show together. And here we come on the Psycho Bunny Network. Finally made it. Because you know what? If it's not one goddamn thing, it's another. Hey, Psycho Bunny Death Cult. We made it. It took us a few extra minutes. I'm sorry. I feel better. If anybody gives a shit, probably not. Technical difficulties. We're all sorted out. We're ready to talk to you about the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1973. Common misconception is that it came out in 1974. It was actually made in 1973. Didn't get distribution until 1974. Not that any of that really matters to anybody other than us horror dorks.
Well, that's pretty cool.
That's really, a little something. Bear with me here. Are there any fans out there? Hey, Raven. Any fans of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre out there? I'm sure there is. Are you logged on? Because I can't see a fucking thing as far as comments go. No, because you got your goddamn phone in your shirt. Buddy's got his phone in his shirt. Can you let him see your shirt there? Look at this. Look at this guy. He's got an eyeball in his T-shirt. I don't know. Look at that. Woo! Looking at you. So he spent good money on that. Bear that in mind. All right, let's do a goddamn podcast here, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
It is a great movie, Raven. You know? And I'm going to agree with you on that. But I think if you if you compare it to the recent remake, love that movie. Have you seen the remake, Raven? What did you think of that? I actually look. I'm a Leatherface kind of a guy, and I love the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think the remake was just a little bit better.
Yeah,
Just definitely. Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson, go. Haven't seen the new one yet, Jim. He's talking about the Joker. He wants to know who we think should play. Probably. It's been the running question for like 4 months now. But if I got to pick between, just off the top, I go Heath Ledger, man. I was scared of that Joker. I wasn't so much scared of Jack Nicholson. He seemed like a cool guy more than anything. All right, let's get into a podcast here. We got Texas Chainsaw New Generation. Oh, come on, Tony. The new with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey. All right. He's gonna Tony's gonna be that guy. Well, Tony's always that guy, but still, now you're really being that guy, Tony. He's either a Leatherface hater or he's got some kind of insano hard-on for Renee Zellweger. A young Renee Zellweger, I understand, but or he's just being a troll. Are you being a troll, Tony? It's fine if you are. Just let us know so we know how to address you from here on out. All right, let's get into a podcast here, shall we? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Mic's on, yeah? No? Yeah. Okay, here we go. That's right, inmates. We're talking about the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1973. This one stars Marilyn Burns, Gunnar Hansen, and Alan Danziger. It's a common misconception that this movie is based on, well, I mean, it is based on a true story, but I think the common misconception is that the events portrayed in this film are as they actually happen in real life, which is not true.
Right.
The true story in this case is the story of Ed Gein, the Wisconsin guy, werewolf. He had a lot of different names in the media. He was not. Are you familiar with Ed Gein at all? So he dug up his mom and he wore her as a skin suit, and he murdered 2 women, just 2. He may have also murdered his brother, but that's a whole other story. Gnarly type of a dude. What was so creepy about Ed Gein, and what translated into this movie, I think, so well, was that weird Martha Stewart kind of DIY arts and crafts shit that was going on around the house. It's one thing if you're making yourself a skin suit. I don't understand that. I don't know why you'd want to do that. But it's another thing if you're decorating your entire, living quarters with like weirdo chairs and things that hang from the ceiling, like wind chimes, kind of a deal, bones and fuck. Dude, that stuff carries an odor. I would assume it carries an odor. I don't know for sure. Well, eventually you just stop smelling it because you're a disgusting bastard, and that's what happens. Anyway, so that's the true story behind this, and it's funny because this movie actually opens up with a not necessarily a disclaimer, but like a monologue by John Larroquette explaining about how this is all a true story, and these 4 or 5 youths were out for an idyllic drive on a Texas afternoon, and it turned into a nightmare. And if you're watching this when you're 4 years old, like I was, you are certain that there is a Leatherface, and he is out there somewhere, and he's gonna at some point get a hankering for a 4-year-old boy from Reno, Nevada, and he's probably gonna get in his van and head your way at any moment, dude. But John Larroquette has that like almost an authoritarian voice, one of those voices that just says, "Hey." When he's serious, hey, I know what I'm talking about. Listen to me and believe everything I say. Fucking A, I will. Right. And I'll scare the shit out of me give me nightmares probably until I hit puberty. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Hey, Aaron's in the house. Yeah, don't pick up. What's up, Aaron? Why would you pick up a hitchhiker to begin with? Right. All right, we're going to get to that in a second. So, fucking, yeah, it is. That's why I'm not opening. Oh, go fuck yourself. That guy's, don't even get me on the smells of that dude, okay?
Right.
And what he's going to do to your upholstery when he comes in.
Mm.
Boner, eggplant boner for Renee, Tony says.
Mm.
I agree. She's had some work done, Tony. I don't know if you've seen her recently, but I think she's still relatively attractive. Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. She doesn't look like she used to, I'll tell you that. All right, enough about Renee Zellweger. Let's talk about the Texas Chain. So we open up with this monologue / disclaimer from John Larroquette. Very authoritative. Very, I know what I'm talking about. You're in grave danger if you're watching this movie, because there's a guy out there with another guy's face on and a chainsaw. From there, we're going to jump into our story. So we start off with a radio broadcast that we're listening to over some flashbulb pictures being taken of dead bodies. And this is where we get that iconic twang sound. That sound is twang. That sound is now, you did it better than I did. That sound is now synonymous with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And if I played you that sound right now, you'd be like, oh, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Regardless, we see that, and then we get this radio broadcast of a discovery made somewhere in rural Texas of some dead bodies that were dug up, desecrated, and wired into a weird kind of work of art, I guess you'd call it, like a monument thing going on. And it's great. And then we actually get to see this fucking thing. It's basically a dead guy holding another dead guy's head, and he's like straddling a tombstone, and there you go. That's what you got right there. And that's creepy. And that's, who has time for that shit? Somebody that lives in rural Texas that doesn't have a job, doesn't have a girlfriend, doesn't have internet access, or kids, or pets that they haven't already eaten, and really has nothing better to do with their time other than dig up dead people and pose them in weird geometric type of things. Alone, well, not really. I mean, you probably need a crew to get that kind of work done, especially in like one night, which I assume you have to do. No. What you got to do? You probably have like your digging crew, and then you have like an art guy who's like, okay, I want this dead guy over there, and then I want, like, for juxtaposition, we're gonna have a dead head, like a head over here. You know, he's like the idea man, the concept man, and then from there you're gonna have like a color coordinator who wants to match the palettes. You know, it's a whole thing, dude. It's a production. It's almost like interpretive art in a weird way. So it's nasty. So that's where we start. From there, we're going to pick up with our kids. 5 of them in a hot, stinky van in the Texas desert in what I assume to be summer. So you can imagine the temperatures are probably getting up there. And as the radio broadcast just told us, it's now widespread news that this particular cemetery has been desecrated, and people are coming to the cemetery to check on their interred loved ones to make sure that they haven't been fucked with. So that's exactly what our kids are doing. They're headed to the cemetery to check on one of the young ladies' grandfathers who's buried in said cemetery. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to meet some of these kids. We got a cast of fucking fuckheads in this van, for lack of a better term. Monica's in the house. Hey, Monica. That would be the padded room family. Hi, guys. I made it. Thanks, Monica. Dude, Monica, if you wanted to go to a cemetery to make sure that your grandfather had not been dicked with post-mortem, I'll go with you. Sure. You want to do it on a Saturday or Friday or Saturday? I'm happy to join you. Maybe we could do it like, we'll stop at some bars or something, though, because these kids look miserable. Now, let's talk about our kids for a second. We got 5 of them, 3 guys, 2 girls. The guys, well, actually, it's 2 couples and then the brother of one of the young ladies. So couple number 1 comprises of Jerry, who's driving the van, and Sally Hardesty. Now, let's go back to the prequel for a second. Then. Sally Hardesty, last name Hardesty. You'll recognize that if you were really paying attention last week when we did Leatherface. The guy at the very beginning that was driving his date down the country road when the kid was in the pig cow costume thing, that was Ted Hardesty. Ted Hardesty is whose grave we're going to visit right now at the beginning of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Sally's grandfather. The whole lineages are coming together here, baby dolls. Hang with us. We're going to unwrap the whole shit. So we're going to visit Ted Hardisty's grave, who we'll recognize from last week's movie. Well, we won't because he's buried, and luckily he wasn't one of the guys to get fucked with. But we get to the cemetery, and the first thing we're gonna recognize. Well, actually, before we get to the cemetery, there's a very ridiculous scene that needs addressing real quick. So they pull over because Franklin has to urinate. Now, Franklin is wheelchair bound, and he's a bit overweight. All right, I'll just come out and say it, which is like a double deuce of not going to be able to do shit in this movie. So they wheel him out of the van. Now, this is 1973. They don't have handicap accessible vans. So what they have to do is stop, open the sliding door, put two 2x4s down, and then wheel his ass down. And then that's where he goes to the bathroom. Now, it's a funny thing. You can't fat shame. I'm not fat shaming Tony. I'm just stating a fact. He was overweight. And you can blame that on whatever you want. Okay? I'm not saying it made him a bad guy, but it's worth noting because he's a big dude. And that's going to lead to some problems down the line here, Tony. So I'm sorry if well, actually, I'm not sorry. Who gives a shit? Anyway, now there's a funny thing that used to happen in movies I don't know, 1999, or I don't know. You could probably still find this little gimmick in movies today. It's when filmmakers need something to happen, but the writers can't find a way to make it happen and make it make sense. Mm-hmm. Now, this is very prevalent in this movie and certain other horror movies. So what we need to happen here is we need to express the fact that Franklin is indeed handicapped and that he's going to be a pain in the ass for the rest of the movie. So we need to have him fall down. Now, the way we do this, and we can't really find a way to do it, so we just have a truck drive by, and then we get a bunch of smash cuts really fast, and then Franklin's rolling down the hill. Yeah. No, and it doesn't make any sense. No. Had Franklin never seen a truck before in his life, and he was taken aback by this metal monstrosity? Now, if you want another example of this, look no further than The Hills Have Eyes, the original, in which point there was a car accident that took place because the driver saw an airplane. Airplane drives by, and then boom! How does that work? How does that make sense? It doesn't, but this is a trick that filmmakers used back in the early 70s to just kind of say, it happened. It's fine. So Franklin rolls down a hill while he's trying to take a leak into a coffee can, and everybody has to chase him down, and now we know that Franklin is indeed handicapped. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to cut to our cemetery where we're going to find out whether or not Granddad has been fucked with. So now the sheriffs are there. There's like a whole crime scene. And this is where we're going to meet our pre-Crazy Ralph, Crazy Ralph. Now, this is before Crazy Ralph from Friday the 13th. But we have a very Crazy Ralph-esque figure. And we're not going to get too deep into him or what his problem is, other than to say he's drunk, and I mean super drunk, in a cemetery, probably 10 to 11 a.m. in the morning. Now, some of you are thinking this guy's a loser. I think he's a champion. Yeah. I think that's where I want to be at some point. I want to find myself hammered in a cemetery. I'd like to think that I would call it quits before the sun came up, or somebody would drive me home at Sunday. Hey, man, you're hammered. We got to get you out of here. But this dude is he's sitting in a tire, for Christ's sakes. Yeah. And this is not like a college kid. This dude's probably like in his probably 60s or something like that. So winning, he's like, you laugh at an old man, but there's them who laughs and them who knows better. And I like to think that dude was actually hammered. If he wasn't, he did a hell of a job of acting hammered. Right. Regardless, they check on their grandfather. He's fine. From there, they're taken off. They stop to get gas at a gas station. Now, funny thing about this gas station, if you're a real Texas Chainsaw Massacre psychopath, you can go to this gas station today in Texas. It's owned by Ari Lehman or Lerman. And you may recognize that name. Do you recognize that name at all? Ari Lehman, He plays the keytar in a reggae band. Are you familiar? Do you remember the keytar?
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like a guitar.
Prince had it.
He probably did. It's like a guitar, but instead of strings, it's got like piano keys, which, whatever, in a reggae band. And his claim to fame in the horror community is that he was the kid that jumped out of the lake in the original Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
And that's like his big cash in. His music sucks. And I think he also makes salsa. He's got like a salsa company. And he's now part owner of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre gas station, which is now like a horror hotspot. You can go there. I think they have a hotel there or something. Anyway, these kids stop at the gas station where we meet Drayton Sawyer. You'll remember him from Leatherface also. Now, here's one of the problems I have. And I guess this would be more of a problem with Leatherface than it would be the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In this movie, Drayton Sawyer is a bit of a pussy. He does a good job of. We're going to see some pretty cool broom combat.
Oh yeah.
He can knock the shit out of somebody with a broom, which is pretty silly actually. But other than that, in this movie, he is a bit of a pussy, for lack of a better term. Explains later that he just doesn't have a stomach for killing. In the previous film, Leatherface, he was like shredded and he was stabbing cops and he was fucking some shit up. So obviously that's more on Leatherface than it is on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because the character was designed to be a cook, as Nubbins will get into later.
Right.
All right, so let's pick back up with our kids. They go to the gas station. Unfortunately, this particular gas station completely out of gas. Drayton Sawyer himself comes out and he's like, I ain't got no gas, man. I'm sorry. Come back later this afternoon or tomorrow and we can hook you up. And they're like, oh, fuck, man. Well, we can't make it back to our hometown without gas. So what they decide to do instead is that Sally and Franklin, their father owns a house nearby. So they're going to go up there and check it out. It used to be their grandfather, Ted Hardisty's house. And Sally and Franklin would stay there periodically as they were kids. So they're going to go check it out. The place is a ruin. Now, Drayton tries to talk them out of it, which again is a bit of a writing plot hole because when we get into how things work around here, it doesn't really make sense. If anything, you'd think he'd be like, you guys should go up, check out that house. But he tries to talk them out of it. They don't listen, of course. So off to the house they go. They get there. Well, actually, before they get there, they pick up a hitchhiker. And this is where things get a bit janky. Now, let's talk about this hitchhiker for a minute.
Yeah.
If you watched Leatherface, you'll notice that one of the kids in the opening sequence had a birthmark on his face. You only get to see it for a second, but it is prominently displayed. It was the kid that was wearing a Confederate soldier hat, and the birthmark ran like from his eye all the way down to his cheek in like a weird stripe. Now, if you're watching this movie, you'll immediately recognize the exact same birthmark on our hitchhiker. The hitchhiker is never identified in this film, although in Leatherface he was referred to as Nubbins. I don't know what Nubbins means or where it came from, and I think the name was only used once or twice throughout the whole film. So that's interesting. But Nubbins gets into the car, and he's a bit of a nutsack. He's a bit of a. I think he would have done great at like an open mic night or something like that. Like if he, I mean, he had a solid routine.
Yeah.
If he could have like honed it into a tight 5 minutes, he would have been on fire. They pick him up because they feel sorry for him and because it's morbidly hot outside and they're afraid he's going to die. So they pick him up, he gets in, and they're like, oh, look at this fucking guy. He looks like he just walked out of a graveyard. He's got the crazy birthmark on his face, and everybody's like, how's it going, dude? Yeah. Ooh. So come to find out, Franklin starts asking him about the local slaughterhouse because apparently Franklin has some knowledge of slaughterhouses, and Nubbins is like, yeah, I used to work there. That they put a lot of people out of work when they moved from the sledgehammer to the air gun and shit like that. It's like it's awkward to say the least.
Yeah.
And I imagine this dude stinks also. I love the hitchhiker. love that. That makes sense, Monica. That's like somebody you would probably date. So that makes perfect sense. You'd be like, "Ew, you want to take my picture? Oh, look at my boobs. Ooh, oh, I have a knife too." Whooshing. Anyway, so that's pretty gnarly. He gets in there, and first he regales him with his experiences of working at the slaughterhouse. He's got a camera around his neck along with a weird pouch.
Yeah.
Now, if you're paying attention, you'll recognize the camera is very old school and probably the kind that has the winding flash that would make the sound that we heard at the beginning of the movie. If you're not paying attention, then he's going to whip out some Polaroid pictures or whatever these fucking things are, and they're all of slaughtered cows that he's pretty proud of. And he's like, I was a killer. Look at this. And they're passing these pictures around. They're all of mutilated cows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, great, perfect. So we get another uncomfortable silence, and Franklin takes out his pocket knife and starts like picking his nails with it. So Nubbins snatches his knife away from him, and he's like, that's a pretty good knife. And then he like cuts into his hand and like starts bleeding. And everybody's like, oh, fuck. So one of the other guys, Kirk, is like, Franklin, get the knife back, you crazy bitch. So he takes the knife back, and then he's like, yeah. And then Nubbins pulls out his own knife, which is a shaving razor, and he's like, I have this knife. It's a good knife. You like this knife? And everybody's like, yeah, it's great. It's great. Great knife you got there. Why don't you just go ahead and put it away or get it out of my face, dude. So, yeah, it's like a shaving razor. So that's pretty freaky. And then they're like, okay, well, I think we're going to drop you off. He's like, you guys like head cheese? My brother makes it real good. And he starts describing the process of making head cheese, which to our tree-loving friends in the van is a little disgusting. And then they're like, okay, we're going to drop you off, man. He's like, just take me home. It's real close. And they're like, well, if it's that close, you can just walk, right? And he's like, no, just take me home. We're going to have head cheese. You guys can stay for dinner. Like, yeah, we're going to let you go. He's like, pulls out his camera, and he starts like, I'm going to take a picture. And then he takes a picture of Franklin, pulls the picture out, and he's like, here's the picture. It's a good picture. You can pay me now, $2. Everybody's like, don't pay that fucking guy. You didn't ask to have your picture taken, and that picture sucks. It's all fucked up. So that pisses Nubbins right off. Instead of like eating the picture, he decides he's going to put some black powder on it and blow it up right there in the middle of the van. So van goes like, all that shit. And everybody's like, get him the fuck out of here. He just blew up a picture. So Jerry pulls the van over. Nubbins goes out, and they go taking off. And this is where we get the first, but not the last, use of the raspberry in this movie. This movie should have gotten an award for most creative use of the raspberry. You don't see raspberries that much anymore. Do you even know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
The raspberry. My son gives that to me on a regular basis. Daddy, I'm going to give you a raspberry. So that's what he does as the van's driving away, and he wipes a bunch of blood on the back of it, so that's pretty gnarly too. Now they get to the ruins of the Hardesty estate. It's all fucked up, man. There's vines and ivy growing all over it. It's a ruin, pretty much. They get in there. Franklin's a little freaked out about what just happened, and he's all pissed off. And as he should be, because he's in a wheelchair. We're in rural Texas, and this is not like a handicap accessible place at all. It's not like it's not even paved. It's mostly dirt, and the place is falling apart around them. So our two couples do as they're wont to do: go off, separate, and go off to find places to have sex. Franklin had mentioned a swimming creek not too far away. So Kirk and Pam, they come down. And they're like, "Hey Franklin, where's that swimming creek?" And he's like, "If I have any, I can't find. Oh, it's gonna be fun. If I have any more fun, I don't think I can take it, man. Oh, it's down behind those two sheds. Just go on down there." Okay. Let's talk about Franklin for a minute. Can you blame him? Okay, here's my I have a couple of problems with Franklin. Number one, I mean, he's a bit of a and I feel like every road trip has somebody that wants to complain about shit, and he makes that known from the get-go. It's too hot. That guy's crazy. Oh, that's gonna asphyxiate. Oh God, what am I? I'm in a wheelchair? Well, Sally. All right, dude. All right. I'm assuming that we invited you out of obligation because your grandfather's whose grave we're going to see.
Right.
I understand that. Now, at this point, you have to ask yourself, hey, I'm in a wheelchair. This is not going to be fun for me, and it's going to be 4 times less fun for everybody else because they now have to cart me around, my fat ass, mind you, around in my wheelchair into this non-handicap accessible van. And now they want to take me into this ruin of a house up a dirt road. And I'm probably going to have to go down to this creek, which is down a trail in my wheelchair.
Mhm.
You know what? I'm going to sit this one out. I don't need to. You just come back, tell me what you found at Grandpa's grave. We'll call it even. Not Franklin, though. He wants to ruin everybody's day. And that's exactly what he does. Starting right now. Well, actually, probably starting at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. So he's in there. Oh, I can't take any more fun. Selling. All right, whatever, dude. So Pam and Kurt go off to find this swimming hole, right? It's like down the creek. I'd put it maybe a quarter mile away. They get down there. The hole has dried up. And they're like, well, we're not swimming here. But as they're farting around the big hole in the ground, like, hey, you hear that? You hear that sound? So they go walking. They continue along the trail, and it takes them to another house. And inside the house, they can hear a generator running. So they're like, oh, let's go check out. Maybe they can help us out. Yes, I'm sure. So they go to the old house. They don't see anybody, but they find the generator, and there's a big vat of gas dumping into the generator. So they're like, well, they clearly have gas. I'll give them a couple bucks. We'll go get some more gas. We'll come back. I'll give them a couple more bucks. Everything will be good. So they start hanging around the old house. They knock on the door. Nobody answers. A tooth. They find a tooth on the porch. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. That's about as far as we're going, babe. Yeah. But they hang out anyway. Kurt keeps banging on the door. Eventually, he knocks on the door, and the door creaks open. So he goes inside. Okay, let's talk about the inside of this house for a second here. Now, I'm all for breaking and entering, but not this fucking place.
No.
And if I was breaking and entering, I would take one look around and say, bye-bye.
Yeah.
I will take my wares and my need for gas somewhere else. But, dude, animal skulls hanging all over the walls, like domesticated animals too, like dogs and cats, and chickens, and cows, not like hunting trophies. I can only imagine what the inside of this place smells like. Not good, I'm sure of that. But he's like, hey, anybody in here? He starts walking down this hallway where there's a bunch of animal skulls. He's like, hey, I got some money for gas. And then, of course, Leatherface pops out, hits him in the head with a hammer, and drags him back. Goodbye. There goes Kurt. Outside, Pam is kind of hanging around a porch swing, and she's like, I'm going to go. Kurt, where are you? Kurt. So she goes inside looking for Kurt. She gets inside, starts looking around. He makes it to what I would call the kitchen area. A fine layer of feathers all over this place.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on? Are they just like opening pillows? Did they have a pillow fight the night before or something? I hope not. They were doing the Rocky Balboa training is what they were doing. You gotta catch the chicken, Rock. So just feathers everywhere. Human bones, clearly human bones, fashioned into furniture, hanging from the ceiling. A weird situation where they have a chicken in a cage dangling from the ceiling. What the fuck is that all about? Is there a reason for that? I don't know. Are they? I mean, I imagine they're going to kill it and eat it. You know what? We're going to put you in the ceiling. So she starts throwing up because this place is gross. Leatherface hears her, comes out. She makes it out the front door, but then he grabs her from behind, pulls her back in, hangs her on a meat hook while she's still alive. Boom! That's pretty gnarly. Yes, and then she just kind of gets to dangle there while she gets to watch Leatherface cut up Kurt, which is pretty gnarly. So now we're going to cut back to the rest of the guys. Sun's starting to set now. Coming around nighttime. We got Jerry, Sally, and Franklin back at the van. Jerry's like, oh, God, what the fuck are those guys doing? You know what? Where's that old swimming hole? I'm going to go down there and get them. So Franklin tells Jerry. Jerry goes down there, finds there is no swimming hole, continues along the trail, ends up at the exact same house. Walks around, knocks on the door a few times, nobody answers. She's like, come on, are you guys goofing on me? What the hell? Eventually grows a pair and goes inside, meets with the same fate as the other two, gets hit in the head with the sledgehammer. We get, in case we didn't already know, we get kind of an almost endearing scene with Leatherface in which he is stalking around the kitchen trying to find his chainsaw, which is sitting 2 feet in front of him on a table. And, I mean,
Well, you know.
we could already make our assumptions as to his mental state at this point and what degree of intelligence he has, obviously. But now we know for sure. And that's cool. I get it. It's what we need to establish here.
Right.
All right. So that completely sucks. We're now 3 kids down, 2 to go. Cut back to, it's now nightfall. Cut back to the van. Sally and Franklin are there, and they're having a bit of a pissing match about who's going to hold the flashlight and who's going to go look for Jerry. I got to side with Sally on this one.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go with you, Sally. Come on, take me with you. She's like, dude, it's a trail and it's mostly downhill. I can't push you in a fucking wheelchair down the hilly trail. So I don't know. You're gonna have to stay here. Give me the flashlight. I'll go find them. We'll be out of here in no time. No, I'm gonna go with you. You don't leave me here. I'm gonna go with you. So reluctantly, she agrees. They both go down the trail through all the thickets and the brush and the bushes and all that shit. I would have just left them. You wanna follow me? Go ahead. See how fast you can run or wheel in that thing through the Texas desert, you crazy bitch. Let's go. So they both go. She's pushing him like through the trail and the bushes and the trees. He's getting whacked in the face with branches and all that shit. And as they're going, they're yelling for Jerry. Jerry! Jerry! Jerry, of course, is already dead. At one point, Leatherface just pops out of the bushes and revs the chainsaw, kills Franklin on the spot. Thank Christ for that. I had already had about enough of that. Gives him like a once down the middle, and then like a couple, like a I don't know what he was going for. Like I think he was doing like an ice sculpture on Franklin. Sally freaks right out. She goes hauling ass. Big chase through. He is, and you could do a lot. You could probably feed the family for a good couple days on that guy. Sally goes hauling ass through the woods and the brushes and the bushes and all that shit. She's getting slapped in the face with tree branches. Leatherface is chasing her. He's got the smoke coming out of the engine of the chainsaw. She sees some lights off in the distance, so she goes running towards them. Unfortunately, it's the exact same house that everybody else went to die.
Yeah.
So she goes in there. She slams the door, locks it. Leatherface is behind her. She goes hauling ass upstairs. Leatherface decides to. Okay. So again, we're dealing with somebody who's not playing with a full deck of cards. Instead of just cutting out like the lock of the door, he decides he's going to road map it and just keep going and just. He goes fucking nuts on this door with the chainsaw. He's cutting like grooves and whittling things into it and shit. Oh, berserko on the door. The real victim of this movie is that door. So eventually, fuck yeah, he gets in. He chases her upstairs. She jumps out of a second-story window and hauls ass. He goes running downstairs and starts chasing her. She's got a bit of a lead on him now. She's going through the Texas woods and all that. Everything's cool. Gets smacked in the face with a tree branch and knocked down, which allows Leatherface to catch up to her. He's right on her ass when she sees some more lights in the distance. So she goes running that way, goes back to the original gas station that they started at the beginning. Goes running in there, help me, help me, help me. Now, okay, Drayton is there. He lets her in. And if you're watching this movie for the first time, you got to say something is fishy here.
Right.
Because Leatherface just disappears as soon as she hits the gas station. He gets in there, she gets in there, and she's like, oh, you got to help me. Some shit's going on. He's chasing me. He killed all my friends. I didn't mean to cough on you.
Yeah.
I didn't. But Leatherface immediately disappears. Drayton's like, oh, what's going on? Your friends are okay. I don't have a phone, but let me get my truck and I'll drive you to the next town and we'll go to the police precinct. So he leaves. While he's gone, she's like, no, don't leave me. But while he's gone, she's looking around and she's looking at all the barbecue they have for sale. And she's like, Where are they getting all this meat from? I wonder. This is kind of freaky. And he's gone for like a good 5 minutes.
Mhm.
Eventually, the truck pulls up to the front door. So she's like, oh, thank God. Let's get out of here. When he comes back in, he's got rope in one hand and a gunny sack in the other. That's bad news right there. I don't know what he has in mind with the rope and the gunny sack, but I'm not interested at all. Well, get the fuck out. I'm not, whatever the game is that you want to play with the rope and the gunny sack, not interested. Go fuck yourself. Oh, come on, we're going to go to the, she's like, dude. So she picks up a knife, like a big one, like a carving knife, and she's like, motherfucker, come near me. I'm going to stick you right in the eyeball. This is probably, in my opinion, the funniest part of the whole movie. Drayton picks up a broom and just starts whacking her with the broom. And he's got a smile on his face the whole time. He's like, boom, boom, boom. And she's like trying to fight him off with the knife. It takes all of 13 seconds before she's disarmed and on the ground being broom whacked. And he, I mean, in his defense, he does a pretty good number on her with the broom because he at one point breaks the broom off, like snaps it in half. So he was probably putting some fucking horsepower into that. But still, man, it's a fucking broom. You know? What you got a broom? I got a knife, you got a broom. And you're not even hitting me with the broomstick, you're hitting me with the bristles. I'll fucking get away, you piece of shit. Really, a good SWAT would take care of that. Whatever. I don't yeah, just give me that fucking thing. Hit me with the broom. That is rude. Don't hey, go back outside, find a crowbar or a tire iron. I'm gonna wait right here. I demand some respect. If you're gonna attack me, you don't come in here with a broom, sir. I am formidable. But get a gun or something. Shit, come in here with a broom. Anyway, so he disarms her. At one point, she falls down after being broom whacked. He smashes her head against the floor and knocks her out. At that point, while she's unconscious, he binds her, gags her, and puts the gunny sack over her head. Mm-hmm. Takes her out to the truck and throws her in the passenger seat of the truck. He starts driving. Now, at this point, we know that Drayton's in on the game, even if we were watching this for the first time, because why isn't he taking her to the police? Why did he put her in a gunny sack and gag her? All right, fair enough. So we probably already know where we're going, which is back to the insano Martha Stewart house. So he's driving, and as he's doing so, he's still got the broken broomstick, and he's like poking her with it. But as he's poking her with it, he's telling her that everything's going to be okay. He's like, oh, you just calm down now. Nobody's going to hurt you. And then he like calms down for a minute. And he's like, everything's going to be fine. You just play it cool, and you won't get hurt. Which is kind of weird. But Drayton's a weird dude, so whatever. Get to the house. As we're pulling up into the driveway, we see somebody kind of half-ass like breakdancing, I guess, in a weird way down the driveway. And as soon as he gets into the headlights, we're going to realize it's Nubbins, the hitchhiker. So Drayton gets out, and he immediately starts beating and berating Nubbins. I told you damn kids to stay out of there. You almost got caught at Duke's place. Now he's hitting Nubbins with the broomstick. Boom, boom, boom. And Nubbins is like, you fucking old bastard. Once they get up to the house proper, he gets out and they start walking, and then he sees what Leatherface did to the door. Look what your brother did to the door, that son of a bitch. They go inside, and here comes Leatherface, who I should mention probably has at least 100 pounds on both Nubbins and Drayton, and is batshit crazy with a chainsaw, holding, wearing somebody else's face. So down comes Leatherface, and Drayton starts beating and berating Leatherface also. What did you do to the goddamn door, you son? And Leatherface is like backing down, like, woo, woo, woo. Dude, whatever. Now, this isn't going to make a lot of sense here in about 5 minutes, but we'll get to that in a second. So eventually they get Sally tied up, and she's like hog-tied, and they take the gag out, and she starts to regain consciousness. And they're telling her what's going on. Nubbins is giving her a good what for. I thought you was in a hurry. You were in a hurry. You couldn't take me home. Man, woo! They're batshit crazy. At one point, Drayton gives the command to go get Grandpa. Now we're going to cut to upstairs. What we have upstairs is two rotten corpses. Rotten / mummified in a weird way, an old man and an old woman. Now, the old man, we can draw the correlation to Grandpa from Leatherface.
Right.
The old woman, I'm a little shady about because I'm not quite willing to call her Verna Sawyer because the timeline doesn't quite match up. So I'm not 100% sure who the old woman would be. I don't think it's Verna. I don't think Verna would meet that fate. She was much too strong-willed, and I don't think she would take shit from any of these two turds.
Right.
Regardless, there's two. So they go and get Grandpa. They bring him down. Now, at this point, we're kind of getting the table set for dinner. It's like a big, long table, and it's like a big deal. And Grandpa's going to come down and kill Sally because he's like the killer. And at this point, we get a little bit of a revolt here in the family where Nubbins and Leatherface kind of start talking shit to Drayton, and Drayton's like, you know, you do what I tell you to do, and Nubbins is like, you're just a cook, you don't do shit, and Leatherface is just, Rah! But what we're finding out here for the purposes of this story is that Drayton is literally just a cook. He doesn't kill anybody. He says himself that he doesn't have the stomach for it, and it's kind of the kid's job to do the killing. He just prepares the meals. Things like that. So that's a bit of an offshoot from Leatherface, because in Leatherface, Drayton was a bad bitch. He was dropping engine blocks on people and things like that, really fucking some shit up. So from there, we get they bring Grandpa down. Now they want Grandpa to kill Sally, and they want her to do it in the fashion of hitting her over the head with a hammer while she's bent over a bucket. Fair enough, I get that. So first we have to wake Grandpa up. So we cut Sally's finger open and stick it in his mouth, and he's like, and then he's like, ooh. He starts like doing like a little kind of a shimmy kind of a thing in his chair. Hey, I'm alive all of a sudden. Oh. They're like, okay, Grandpa, it's your turn to kill somebody. So they have Sally bent over this bucket thing, and he starts sort of like half-ass whacking her in the head. He's dropping it, really. He hits her once or twice, for real, but she's still alive and screaming and freaking out. In all this horse shit and fuckery that's going on, she gets free, hauls ass, jumps out of another second-story window, and lands in the front of the house. Takes a minute to like, she's batshit crazy now, too, because of everything that she's been through throughout the night. So she's like, I got to get the fuck out of here. Just takes off. Leatherface comes out of the front door immediately behind her with the chainsaw. Goes following her down the road to the driveway. She makes it to the hitchhiker's right behind him. She makes it to what I assume is some kind of a freeway or something like that. Yeah. And she's like, oh, God, a big diesel truck pulls up and picks her up. But as soon as like he stops, Leatherface like starts like trying to chainsaw the doors of the truck open, and it's a big fat guy that gets out. Unfortunate for him. As he's coming around the truck, he throws like a tire iron and hits Nubbins in the face. As another truck is coming by, runs Nubbins over, like ragdolls him, like grease spot is what Nubbins is. Here comes another truck down the road. We never saw what happened to the first truck driver, other than he took off running. So that happens. Here comes Leatherface. I would just, dude,
I'm out.
Keep the truck, keep the girl. Sorry about the tire iron. I'm just going to go ahead and, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go. So have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. He takes off running. That's pretty good for him. We never see what happens to him. And from there, another truck. He does. You're not going to believe what happened to me at work today. Another truck, like just a Ford, like F-250 without a camper shell, pulls up. She jumps in the back, starts beating on it, and takes off. Leatherface has now like he fell down and kind of dropped the chainsaw on his legs, and it dug into him. It jacked him up pretty good. But he gets up and just starts dancing with the chainsaw, like doing twirlies and swinging the chainsaw. And
dance the paint off, Gary.
That's what it is. That's what you just gotta dance. You fucker, just dance. You dance. You get fired from your job, you dance. Your wife cheats on you, you dance. Your podcast sucks and nobody's watching, fucking shake it, buddy. And that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1973. What did you think, sir?
Really watching it now, but I mean, it's definitely a great classic.
It is. I still love it. I love the mythos that we've now built around the Sawyer family and Leatherface in particular. I think it still holds up in a weird kind of cinema verite fashion in that it's just so gritty and grimy, and you feel kind of dirty watching it, and you wonder, like here in Nevada, we have houses like this. You drive through the Nevada desert from Reno to Vegas or Vegas to Elko or something like that. You'll see these lone little homesteads that just kind of out there in the desert, and you're like, who the fuck lives there? How do they live there? But they have like newer cars in the driveway, so you're like, yeah, the place is falling apart. What the fuck is going on? Keep driving, because this is the kind of shit that is probably happening. Keep the fuck out. Beware of dog. Beware of owner. Beware of owner's daughter. Beware of owner's things in the basement. Well, just don't even come in. Dude, I'm telling you, it gives you pause. I have to say, though, that I do think I like the remake just a little bit better. And the reason for that is the maliciousness of Thomas Hewitt versus the almost empathetic nature of Jed Sawyer. Like at this point, even watching this for the first time as an original standalone movie, you can kind of feel for Leatherface because you see how his older brother is abusing him. Clearly, there's something not right with this dude to begin with. I mean, he's wearing somebody else's face, which is not good, and he can't talk. He just kind of mumbles and whines, and it's not good, man. Whatever his upbringing was, it was not good. And I'm sorry, and that sucks. So, but with Thomas Hewitt, you're like, here's just this hulking ball of evil that just wants to kill and eat and kill and eat. And the only entertainment he gets is from fucking with you before he kills you and eats you. And I don't know. That's just my opinion.
The scene where boyfriend goes inside the house, and then that's right when you see see him just
Hammer?
and then that slide door just shut.
That's probably one of the best kills in cinematic history because it's fast. You get to see the guttural nature of it, the death spasms of Kirk as he's spasming around on the floor, and you're thinking, oh fuck. Is that what really happens when you meet with that kind of head trauma? Probably. I don't know. Either way, I'm not interested in experiencing it myself. That's for sure. And it just happens so fast. The violence of that scene, you don't even really get that good of a look at Leatherface in those moments. You see plenty of them later in the movie, but in that, it's just so fast. It's like, comes around the door. Kirk's like, what? And then whack. And then he kind of spasms and then whack, whack while he's on the ground. And then he's slung over the shoulder. And that's the end of Kirk for this movie. For the rest of the movies too, for that matter. That is gnarly, my friends. I'm going to suggest you check out the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm sure you already have. Give it a rewatch. Let us know what you think. Do you think it holds up by today's standards? I'm curious. Buddy says no. I think it still holds up, but just in a different context. Check it out. Check it out again. It's fucking October. Watch it. Just watch it. Let us know what you think. Other than that, I think we're going to go ahead and take us a little break, and we'll come back with some other stuff. What do you say, buddy?
Yeah.
Let's do it. We'll hang out for another minute or two live with you people, especially since we were late this week. Is anybody still watching? Probably not. There's somebody there, and there's somebody there. There's somebody out there. Not really. They gave up on us already. Yeah, man. So next week we're gonna do Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, which is, I think it's more of a comedy, in my opinion. Oh, Monica's still here. Too much screaming for no reason. I don't know that that's true, Monica. I mean, I would scream too, you know. There was, and I think a lot of that was I think Franklin. Franklin could have just been, just stop it. If he could have just kept his mouth shut. I think a lot of horror fans will agree with me that Franklin is one of the most annoying people in horror movie history. Sally just screamed her fucking face off. I get it. I probably would too if I was in that house being chased around by a chainsaw wielding maniac. Especially.
Okay.
You think she would get hoarse, you know? Like towards the end, help me! I don't know, man. Love it. Turn it up. Can you make them louder? Ooh. I think it's a good show. Monica, I know you didn't like it. Am I right? It's fine. What was it was Franklin. Am I right? Franklin's annoying. And I agree with you if that's what you're thinking. Because, dude, he got old fast. And I don't understand why he would even be on that trip. That's something I never understood. I get that.
And he can't take care of himself. For whatever reason, he can't take care of himself. So, sister wants to go out and have fun. So, sister goes out and have fun. Nobody else will watch.
Somebody has to babysit him, is what you're thinking. Well, Franklin's an adult, though. You know? I mean, I get it. It's 1973. You know, we didn't have the capabilities that we do now as far as handicapped people go. But I think give him a couple of TV shows to watch and some books to read. I assume he can go to the bathroom by himself. In like the comfort of his own home, anyway, you would think. So I don't, and here's what I don't understand either. If I'm Franklin, no, I'm gonna pass. You know, you're going to a graveyard. I'm just gonna sit in the van anyway. I don't really need to see. Just tell me what you saw. Let me know if Grandpa got fucked with. And then you want to go to the ruins of the old house, which I might add is a 2 or 3 or 4-story building, which I did not see any elevators in or handicap ramps or anything. You know what? No, they want to go have fun as they should, and it sucks for him because they just kind of left him out in front of the van, which was it was a shitty move. It was a shitty thing to do. You know, it's hot out there. Let's put them in the shade, and then we'll go have sex with each other in the weird house. I don't know, man, but dude, if I'm Franklin, no, I'm gonna pass. Yeah. And if I'm Sally, I would do that move where, hey, you know, we're gonna go. You want to go? You don't have to. You don't have to come with us, but we're gonna go. And I mean, you're welcome to come, but you don't have to go if you don't want to go. That's how I would roll. I don't know, man. Other than that, it was a great show. Monica, sorry I got you sick. I'm sure it was my fault. We'll see you next week with Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. It was actually, I don't know if you guys know this or not. Here's a little horror knowledge for you. It's actually a sequel that was written for this Texas Chainsaw Massacre by Tobe Hooper and Kim Henkel. That script was never picked up until about 2009. And by then, the Texas Chainsaw license had already passed to different people, and they couldn't make another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. But the movie was still made. It's called Butcher Boys, and it's about what the intention of the movie was to take the Sawyer family and put them in an urban setting. And that's kind of the premise of Butcher Boys, which is it's actually the last 10 minutes is batshit crazy. But leading up, have any of you guys seen Butcher Boys? Either one of you? I don't know who is still watching this. It's actually not a bad show. And if you can watch it with the pretext of thinking, you know, this group of villains is supposed to be the Sawyer family, it kind of puts another layer of cool on it. Think about that. Think about that, inmates and psycho bunnies. Thank you very much for joining us, anybody who's still with us. We'll see you next week with Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
It's like it's been difficult to swallow.
Yep, it is.
Not quite at the level we were at. I see what Monica posted. This is me.